here by many black community leaders who asked me to be present. First of all, I'd like to thank you for this great film and also for the panel. However, I just have three quick comments. I will be very short. The first one is beyond thanking you for your expertise and also personal stories, and you have my sincere sympathy for what you went through, is the fact that too often there are narratives about what happened in Africa, but there are no African or black experts on the panel. That is something that I invite you to address, to revise, because too often I have been at events, I have been at conferences, and you would never, never think of the fact that before coming here, I was like, I hope they're going to make sure not to perpetuate that Western mindset, to talk about Africa, but not have an African or black expert. Be it on whether it's about human rights, whether it's about feminism, too often this type of thing has happened, and you have to address that because it goes to my second point. When you're talking here about the ideology that lead to genocide, you have to understand it comes from a certain mindset that is rooted in power. The dehumanization only occurs when you feel you are human and the other is, to take the terms of Hitler regarding Jews, an animal, a rat. So you have to address these things because at the same time, too often when we have, I thank you very much, I think Viol, that's your name, when you talked about Guatemala, that's a very good example. However, I'm very disappointed because I didn't hear anyone talk about Bosnia. Bosnia is in Europe. There was mass rapes. The UN talked about 20,000 to 50,000 women raped 2 hours away from Paris in Europe. And why is it that Rwanda, all these mass rapes and genocide occurred, but when it was in Bosnia, there was intervention, there was military intervention, there was NATO. There are a lot of good excuses. I know about Romeo Dallaire. I was there, I saw the movie, I got the book, but at the end of the day, there's again and again, not victimization towards Africa, but the fact that again, we're talking about Africa in terms of, oh, this is what happened again, nothing was done to intervene, when at the same time, we're talking today in 2017. The actions that happened were in 1994 in Rwanda, but today in 2017 in Congo, there are mass rapes, there's femicide, there are women who are being cut off their breasts, their clitoris, the vagina. I have to be graphic. Why? Because the flip side, as the gentleman before me was saying, is that you have Canadian mining companies who are there present. So it's a Western hypocrisy that time and again is repeated in terms of talking about human rights, but at the same time pushing capitalism, globalization, and economics for profit. I mean, the MP who was here, MP Genius, gave a perfect example about millions of dollars given to Nobel Prize Aung San Suu Kyi, but at the same time, there's genocide going on in Burma towards Muslims. Just as at the same time, we always talk about human rights issues in Saudi Arabia and other countries, but in the name of economics, Canada and other Western nations make deals with them. So all I'm just saying is that let's keep having events like this. Let's keep having actions. I will always support these human rights initiatives. I put my own money. I come to these conferences here. No problem. But please, first of all, stop having this constant narrative of talking about Africa and black issues without having African or black panels experts, because you will never expect that to happen in Africa, that Europe is being talked to without any white, Western, European, North American expert. And you know it's going to happen. And second of all, please truly address the issues. Not just talk about Africa as if it's such an example, but at the same time, I have friends from Bosnia. And you know what? They talk about the things that happen in their country. And they always ask me, how come they always only talk about Rwanda? As if no women were raped in Bosnia. Thank you very much.